Hi, I'm Lynn Watts with Wyatt the Wonder Dog Books. And a lot of times when I'm out talking about my books, people will ask me about how I got into writing, and in particular, what I majored in college, and was it in writing or in journalism? And that's kind of an interesting story to me. So I thought I'd tell you how I decided what to major in. And maybe you'll be surprised to know it wasn't journalism or writing. But originally, when I was in college trying to come up with a major, there were really three things that interested me. One, I considered going into to becoming a dietitian, and that's because food, and not just food, not just eating, but also nutrition has always been just fascinating to me. I've always been very interested in that. And so I looked into that. But when I was in college, I knew a girl who was majoring in dietary science, and I talked to her quite a bit about it. And what I found out was that she did a lot of math, that she took a lot of chemistry, and these were subjects that I knew I was not very strong in. So I found it a little intimidating to think about going into that. And ultimately, I decided that I would just enjoy food and cooking and learning about it on my own. I did not major in that. The second thing I considered very seriously was journalism. And that was because I had always enjoyed writing, and also because I had a role model to follow, and that was my grandfather. He was a journalist and a writer for the local newspaper, the Winston-Salem Journal and Sentinel. And he wrote a regular column, he wrote an editorial column, he wrote articles on all kinds of things, news and politics and history. He wrote about his personal life, and he also reviewed a lot of books. So whenever I visited him, there were just stacks of books everywhere that he was sent free from publishers. And if he ever had one that he thought, was something that I might enjoy, he would pass it on to me. So I found that very intriguing. I loved to read, I liked to write, and I seriously considered that as well. What was the holdup? Why did I not go into journalism? Well, my impression of journalism was that it involved interviewing other people, and in particular, interviewing strangers. Um, I guess I had an image of, the news person holding a mic and getting in front of somebody and demanding an answer to a question, and really kind of risking rejection, I suppose, in terms depending on the questions they were asking. So that part of it did not appeal to me. I found that very intimidating. And I guess, like most writers, I wasn't really sure that I was good enough to be a writer. Not that I really checked that out. But in any case, I also determined that perhaps that was not the path that I wanted to go down. The final and third major that I considered was psychology. And I've always been interested in trying to understand myself better, understand other people better. And for that reason, I did take a psychology class. I liked it pretty well. I found it pretty interesting. And that is what I decided to go into. So I majored in psychology. I got a couple of master's degrees in different types of counseling, one in rehab counseling, and then finally one in school counseling. And that's where I wound up for 20 years, during which time I started writing the Wyatt the Wonder Dog books, which brought together my interest in writing and also my interest in psychology and my long history of counseling experience. So that is how I wound up with the major that I did, and how I wound up where I am today, which is writing books to empower children and help them be better problem solvers. Uh, Thanks so much for listening.